Hi, this is Tyreen Martinson, and this is the Friday edition of the Truth About Storytelling, which means that it's a little late in the day. I am keeping my promise to myself to do a video a day, Monday through Friday, for 100 days at the beginning of 2024. And yes, this is the rough cut video series edition because I'm new at this and I'm just going for it. So this week I've been talking a little bit about fandom, movies that I like that have inspired me lately, books that inspired me to write originally, and then yesterday I think I talked about some other stuff, but today I'm going to come back to the books that inspired me to write originally. And one of the book series that inspired me originally was The Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. Originally, I only had one book in the series, and that was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And I read that thing over and over and over again. And then I got another book in the series, and I don't think I got them in order. I got The Horse and His Boy, and I read that book over and over and over and over again. And then I got The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, and I read that over and over and over again. And then I read I got Prince Caspian, and I read that over and over and over again. And so those four books those are the ones I had for a really long time. And when I was in fifth grade, I had an organ teacher who was very dear to me. Even though I didn't really love playing organ that much, she loved C.S. Lewis, and she lent me the other three books in the series. And then we kind of read through the series together, and she talked to me about the Christian symbolism in the series, and it all made sense to me because I knew there was something there other than the fun adventure story. There was something more to it, and so I'm really thankful to Larice for sharing that with me. Unfortunately, Larice passed away the summer between my 6th and 7th grade year. She had some mental health issues after the birth of her first child, and she committed suicide, and it was very, very painful to me. As a kid, I almost lost my faith entirely. I had a tough time believing that God was good after that, because this beautiful, amazing woman who I admired greatly, and who seemed to have such a great faith, she had died, and I thought that God should stop it. And I don't know that that was a reasonable thing for me to expect, but that's just where I was at that point in my life. And it took a good year of struggle and really delving into the Bible and asking my pastor a lot of really hard and annoying questions, which he actually seemed to like, and making my poor confirmation class. There were only 5 of us, and the other 4 were all boys, and every single confirmation class I was forced to go to by my mom, I'd show up with like a whole bunch of questions to ask that were tough questions about God and how God could be good if this happened or that happened. I mean, I kind of grilled the pastor, but he was excited, and we just poured over the Bible. We searched through scriptures and read more than I think he'd expected to read. And he started coming to me with answers for questions he thought I might have. And it ended up being a really good thing. I ended up rediscovering my faith and relearning how good God is. And there's a longer story to that than the one I'm going to share today. But yeah, there's a lot of good that came out of a really awful thing. And I pray regularly for Larice's child and her husband that she left behind and her family. And I hope that God in his graciousness knew that she was, actually, I trust that God in his graciousness knew that she was unhealthy mentally, and that her salvation was assured because she did believe in Jesus. And I know that I know now that she was in a tough place. So I'm still really thankful to her for walking through this series with me and sharing what it really meant. But it is one of the reasons that I really love C.S. Lewis. And I know when I taught a class on C.S. Lewis years ago at a homeschool co-op that I used to teach at, I would teach the series of the Chronicles of Narnia, but then we'd also read Mere Christianity, most of the Screw Tape Letters and parts of God in the Dock alongside the Mere Christianity Chronicles, or what am I trying to say? The Chronicles of Narnia. And the students I had were all 7th through 9th grade. So they were old enough to start really delving into and digging into some spiritual matters, and to talk about how we can share our Christian faith through logical argument, like C.S. Lewis did with Mere Christianity, or with stories, like he did with the Chronicles of Narnia. And what's fascinating is if you read those books concurrently, if you read the Mere Christianity and the Screw Tape Letters alongside the Chronicles of Narnia, you'll see that there's a lot of rich symbolism that he used across all of his books. And he used some similar arguments, even though, I mean, the Chronicles of Narnia are a story. There's a lot of similar things in them as there are in Mere Christianity. So it's just kind of a fascinating thing. And I'm thankful I was able to teach those classes. And anyway, I love C.S. Lewis. I love J.R. Tolkien. And I'm not saying they were infallible people. They were not. They were fallible just like the rest of us. But I'm glad I grew up with those books. And they definitely inspired me to write what I write. It's why I write fantasy and science fiction. It's why sometimes I write very overtly Christian fantasy and sci-fi, and sometimes I write fantasy and sci-fi where I feel that my faith is still there, but it's definitely on a more subtle world-building level, kind of behind the scenes. And I think there can be a strength in that, to be able to share faith through story and through theme and through metaphor. So, and I think it's important to actually have both kinds of books out there, whether I'm the person who writes both kinds or someone else's. I think it's really important to have books that share faith both kind of out loud and also subtly in the metaphor level. So I'm thankful for being able to go, like the last 2 years, I went to Realm Makers, which is an awesome speculative fantasy and sci-fi writers conference that takes place in St. Louis every year. They haven't opened up the registration yet, but it opens up in February, so I'm planning on getting a ticket for this year. And it's just a great place to go and hear from speculative fiction authors who are like, they've been far more successful in their careers than I have so far. And it's just a fun place to meet people who love fantasy and sci-fi, and who also love God. So we're like the super nerds. It's a great place. So anyway, I write what I write, partly because of the books that I grew up reading and loving as a kid. And I just want to encourage anyone who listens to this to know that you can write what inspires you. You can write things like that for others. And I think it's important to write what we love, and to write things that, I don't know, motivate us, that encourage us, and help us live life well and fully. So thanks for joining me for The Truth About Storytelling. This is Tyreen Martinson, and I will see you around on video next week. Thank you.